that we already enlightened to begin with. The truth is already in us. There's nothing to reach for, it's already here. You know, there's a musician, he's still living, his name is George Clinton. I'm influenced by him quite a bit. I actually realized that a lot of his sayings were Buddhist, like free your ass, your mind will follow. Free your mind, your ass will follow. Okay? Sly Stone with, in the song Stand, I'm free, at least in my mind, if I want to be. And then that statement of the, in the late 70s and 80s, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. So that concept of the mind, in my understanding, was always there. You know, but he used a word called pimping people's instincts. And the album Stand on the verge of getting it on. And I asked him one time, you talking about pimping people's instincts? He said the people that control everything pimp people's instincts all the time. So the first thing is have you in the state there's something wrong with you. You know, I had a big problem with 12 steps when I used to do drug counseling. The whole thing about you're an addict and you always want to be one. I had a serious problem with that, and I told my supervisor that too. I said, I'm not going to teach this. You know, I don't believe that, you know, they want you a particular way, you always will be that way. I believe there might be causes and conditions that if you're around certain situations might make you more susceptible to doing certain things if you're not mindful of it, but just to block off, say that you like this, and let you, so that you got to keep coming to this meeting all the time. That's another type of control and addiction too. Buddhism doesn't say that. Buddhism says nothing wrong with you to begin with. The Buddha nature is inside of you. And if you can become clear, if you can get your mind clear and see it for yourself, then you can see the truth. You'll know the truth for yourself. But we have aspirations, and one of them is laziness. And so we've been trained and conditioned on certain levels, especially when it comes to spiritual subjects. We're very lazy. We think, you know, we've been conditioned that somebody, some messiah, somebody's gonna come save us. You know, now, if we go buy a car, we'll check 20 different places to see if we get the best deal. We do all kinds of investigation. We putting our money in the bank, most of us will do all types of investigation. If we go put money on Wall Street, we do all types of investigation on something that's impermanent. Because we don't know at what point we're going to check out here and we can't take none of that stuff with us or use it, at least to my knowledge we can't. You know, but something that's the most, maybe probably the most important thing, which is our own self, most of us put very little effort into investigating. We rely on what somebody else says. And then if a person, you know, performs a few magic tricks for you or gives you these superhuman type stories, then we're really sold. You know, and then all you gotta do is say this person is this and that. And I'm not saying there aren't people like that, and I'm not saying people shouldn't have teachers, and I'm not saying people shouldn't be in groups, because groups are important, because it gives us support. But what I am saying, what I'm also saying is that you have to do the work and rely on your own understanding if you want real freedom. That's what Buddha's saying, at least. Now going back to the more specific subject of blacks in Buddhism. Gondwana land was an ancient civilization. You know, most histories say around 15,000 BC. And that combined India, Australia, and East Africa with one landmass. It was an oceanic civilization. People that lived there had dark skins, but actually people that lived there had all colors. You know, there actually were some people with colors that you don't even see anymore, from what I was told. I don't live then, so I can't attest to it totally, but it sounds reasonable to me. So, there were a group of people called Maahaah. Maahaah means great, Sita means perfection. So these people had the greatest of perfections, the Maahaah. My research takes me back that far. That's as far as I can take it back. Maybe somebody can go further than that. That's as far as I can go, with clear information. And from the Maahaah, these people had this remarkable type of individuals who supposedly are sciences, mathematics, medicine, music, and arts, all emanated from these people. One particular person they talk about is a guy named Augustar. Augustar was a black person, or had black, dark skin. This is, these pictures they show up. A lot of people, if you go to southern India today, a lot of people you see there have dark skin. Sri Lanka, you see the same thing. But not everybody, but you see a lot of people like that. Even in Nepal. Okay. Sangata is the lineage of teachers that are Buddhists. Buddhist Mahasiddhas are Sangata. They have different lineages. Some were Vedic, some were Buddhist. Most of your religions, from all the research I've looked at that we have today, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Jainism, Buddhism, Bone, all these different kind of religions and stuff came from the Mahasiddhas. Okay, you can trace it back, you really trace it back to the Mahasiddhas. Okay, so as I said before, Agastar was a famous Mahasiddha. He was black. Many people say Sakyamuni Buddha 2,500 years ago was black. You know, some people say he wasn't, some people say he was. But all you have to do is look at how the people in Nepal look, and then you'll have an idea of how he looked. So, you know, that's that part. Nagarjuna, who's the founder of Mahayana Buddhism, was black. Tilopa, who's the founder of the Kagyu system, was also black. Some people say Padmasambhava was. He came from northwest Pakistan. So if you know how people in northwest Pakistan look, then you have to have a pretty good idea of how he looked. Okay? And I'm going to mention this because when people only see images of one thing, then it gives a false image to one group of people of how another group of people is, and it creates low self-esteem that I haven't done nothing in another group of people. That's the only reason why I'm mentioning that. Because on another level, I have a book coming out that talks about this, but it'll be out maybe in a few months, is that all the colors exist inside us from Asiatic medical viewpoint, Asiatic medicine. The heart is red, the lungs are white, the stomach is yellow, and the kidneys are black. And the real color we want to get to is the liver, which is where the home exists, where the soul and the energetic body is, and that's blue or green. And that's why when you see pictures, at least from my way of looking at it, when you see pictures of these various Buddhas and what have you, and so-called avatars in India, like Krishna or Shiva or Buddha, medicine Buddha, they look blue. In the Semitic religion, when they talk about Melchizedek, and the Sufis talk about El Qadir, they describe him as green. When we look at blue and green, our life force on earth, plants, which we need, is green. And then the next thing will be the water in the sky, and that looks blue. You know, so when somebody asked me what color am I really talking about blue. I remember the teacher said, you know, you want to become a blue person. I said, what are you talking about? Man, crazy. What's a blue person? He never would tell me. You know, he never told me what it meant. I guess he figured I would figure it out at some point, like 25 years later. You know what I'm saying? You know, but that's where I'm going with this. It's consciousness without color. Color is important because in a relative sense, the relative reality, everyone needs to know who they are. Okay, because a certain thing has been already set up. So everyone should feel good about who they are. Black people should feel good about who they are. White people should feel good about who they are. Asians should feel good about who they are. Women should feel good about who they are. And men should feel good about who they are. Everyone should feel good about who they are. And not only that, how you look. You understand? Because naturally, Madison Avenue has destroyed, especially women in particular, psychology on this thing by everybody got to look like Twiggy. Who remembers Twiggy? I show hand. I mean, everything was fine, the Twiggy came out. And then all of a sudden, everybody's trying to be, you know, 90 pounds, 110, and like your body structure is that, you know, you gotta look at your heredity and how your body is built, how your bone structure is. And that's okay. Because you try to, you know, so people walking around, and you know, I'm sure everybody knows now they use computers and stuff when you see the magazines, but to that recent discovery came out, women in particular, but men too, everybody's trying to look a certain kind of way. The thing is, we only gonna have this suit of clothes for so long, then it drops off. That's a fact. It's gonna drop off. okay, regardless of what you believe or don't believe. This suit of clothes called the human body is going to leave. But what might not leave is the mind stream, whether you want to call it soul, mind stream, spirit, whatever word you want to use for it. That won't leave. And so, putting more effort into that is what the Buddha was trying to say. And people of all colors were a part of that thought process. Gautama Buddha, Sakya Siddhartha, the one that everybody talks about 2,500 years ago, is the main focal point of what people talk about. But in reality, there have been hundreds of thousands of Buddhas in this world system. There were thousands of Buddhas before that one, and there are thousands of them after that. Because Buddha means to be enlightened, and there are many, many people that are enlightened. The man next door to you, or the woman across the street could be enlightened. It's just a matter of how well you pay attention. The wisdom is coming in from at every point. Somebody can say something on the street, and that's the message right there. The messages and the information is coming in from everywhere. How are we paying attention? I'm going to stop at that point. I have some other things I'm going to say, but I'll stop at that point. Anybody have anything they'd like to say, share? Okay. I talked about Sheikh Anta Diop is a African historian. He talks about Buddhism came in from ancient Egypt. Now, their history showed that the people in Senegal claim to be the direct descendants of the people that lived in ancient Egypt, and that they migrated over through the war and other types of situations. I also like to talk about Buddhism in relation to culture. The reason why I say it's about understanding the mind, because you have to be able to separate culture from the teachings. So I'll talk about that. That's why you hear the word Chinese Buddhism, Japanese Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism. You just don't see the word Buddhism. They always put the culture in front of it. Okay? So we live in America. Most of us are influenced by Asian philosophies and Buddhism. You know, what happens sometimes is that the culture seeps in to the philosophy. And one, in my opinion, should try to separate that, because you have your own culture. You have your own culture right here. I've been Chinese, I've been Tibetan, I've been all Japanese, I've been all that. You know what I'm saying? I've been through all those kinds of changes like that. You know, African, wearing, these kind of clothes and this, and talking like this, and doing all that. But the point is, you live here. You live here. So the crux of Buddhism has to do with sitting, chanting, and uncovering the obscurations. That's the root basis of it. Everything else is gravy on top of that. Tibetan Buddhism tends to be a little bit different because they add in Bone Buddhism is actually the oldest Buddhism in Tibet. Okay? And that existed 18,000 years ago through a person by the name of Shinrab Rinpoche. And that came from the northern part. And then the Buddhism that you see today is Indian influenced Buddhism that comes in through India. So a lot of times one group wants to talk about the other group because it has to do with cultural stuff. Okay, but in reality, the Bone Buddhism was here longer. As a matter of fact, the Dalai Lama said that they recognize Bone Buddhism as being the fifth school of Tibetan Buddhism. Okay. Buddhism went to China. Buddhism went to Korea. Buddhism went to Japan. Buddhism went to Southeast Asia. Coming from the Sakyamuni revelation and lineage. And now Buddhism is here. In my opinion, having practiced many different forms of it, no one is better than the other. It just depends on your personal preference. Your personal preference. In my personal opinion, no school of spirituality is better than the other. It just depends on your personal preference. In my opinion, no teacher is better than the other. It just depends on your personal preference. Even a bad teacher is a good teacher. But sometimes some people need bad teachers to wake them up. Sometimes you go through a bad teaching, and if you really have the zeal then you won't allow that to stop you. Sometimes, so a bad teacher is a good teacher. All teachers are good teachers. Anyone that come to teach you anything, take the good from it. Or like Bruce Lee say, absorb what's useful. Now I'd like to add in a few other things. Famous Black Buddhists: Tina Turner, Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Tiger Woods, Russell Simmons, Alice Walker, and I know there's Rosa Parks, all Buddhists. Okay. I'd like to also thank Brother Kali for the information I got talking with you, and Sensei Herman Hurst, who I had a long conversation with in North Carolina, a long time. I think he says 39 years in practicing Buddhism. Kareem Darwish, who's been practicing Buddhism and Islam, both for about 20, 30 years, and my close soul brother, Hamid Drake, who probably had empowerments from probably every Tibetan Lama on the planet. Like, this guy met everybody and studied with him personally. I'm like, man. But he travels around the world with drummers, so he is able to meet all these people. So at that, I'm going to stop. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, sir.
Sir, I heard you mention liver and soul. Are they in the same context?
What did you say?
The liver and soul, you mentioned them are they in the same context?
According to Chinese or Oriental medicine, the liver energy is where our energetic body resides. Okay, and they call it the hum. Okay, and so the liver and the heart is almost like the same type of function. If I can kind of like explain this, I mean, I'm speaking about a physical organ, but I'm talking about the energetic aspect that's connected onto it. Okay, so we say that's blue or green because that's the part that can be regenerated. In a lot of tribal societies, when ancestors would die, they would still eat the liver, even though they got to get rid of the rest of the body, but they would take that liver. Okay, I know there's probably a lot of vegans and vegetarians here, but from a Chinese medical perspective, the quickest way to build blood is through eating the liver. Okay, I even had a friend of mine that was a stone vegetarian, and I was telling that story the other day. They ended up going to India, and the guru told them, "You got to eat some liver because your blood is fishing." I had a good laugh, but anyway, for a few weeks actually. But in the spiritual sense, when we get hurt, and if we're not on a conscious path, we normally do things that damage our liver. At least in our modern society, that means alcohol damages the liver, drugs damage the liver. And I don't want to get into a debate about marijuana, but from a medical point of view, and what all the teachers, the gurus and lamas I've studied with, what they told me in relation to marijuana is that it damages the wisdom eye and damages the liver also. My experience playing music, and part of my music experience was playing roots reggae music during the 80s and late 70s. I saw a lot of good friends of mine pass away because of overconsumption of marijuana. Their whole body would be eaten up with cancer. So that's what I experienced and saw. But I don't want to get into debate on medical marijuana and this, that, and the other. What people want to do is fine. But these substances, and then even if we talk about Western meds, they damage the liver. So we can clear the mind with Western medicine as well as Eastern medicine states that 70 to 80% of our diseases are psychosomatic, they come out of the mind. And because of stagnation, that's an attachment. Talking about attachment, so we still dealing with Buddhist concepts. Because we attach to and can't let go of certain pains and sufferings that we've experienced. And many of us have experienced some traumatic things, especially if you experience it in childhood in particular. So it takes a lot of effort and work. I use the word work, but to begin to turn these things around, you can't get rid of it, but you want to harmonize it. You want to balance it. You can't get rid of things. Whatever you've experienced it. Whatever you've seen it. But rather than keep looking back in the past, try to see right now. So if we can eradicate or harmonize the past and the future, you'll get angry, but you only be angry in this frame, and then it goes away. What happens is we get angry and then we hold on to it. That's where the problem comes in. Being angry is not a problem, holding on to it is a problem. Being greedy is not a problem, holding on to it is a problem. All those emotions we're going to have, but we have to have them in present frames. And that's why the mindfulness, and later on, the clear insight, then later on from that, higher levels of meditation come in. Then you begin to see 4 things Buddhism talks about that they suggest that you think about. One of them is the shortcomings of this world, which is called samsara. That's one of them. That's number 4. Shortcomings. That no matter what you do, you're going to always end up suffering again, especially if you operate out of those emotions. In the end, you're going to suffer. You're always going to have that hole going to be there, if I can put it like that. And so the main purpose of this talk, I talked about Buddhism probably a lot, was to show you that all people had an input in the religious philosophies that exist on this planet. And black people are definitely one of them, as well as women, which is a whole nother subject. Like one of my teachers said, he said that probably 90% of the stuff that we have all came from women. But that's a whole nother. Yeah, and it was usurped. The information was usurped. So a lot of these guys, if we give credit to, is actually their wives and stuff had the realization, and they wrote it down and they got credit for it. Yeah. One case is a guy named, it's not in the Buddhist subject, but it's a Sufi, a very famous Sufi called Maahaah-Rooh. He said, I am the truth. The truth is in me, but actually he heard his sister say it. And he went out, so history gives him the credit, but actually he heard her over say it. And there was another teacher of the founder of Aikido, Master Morihei Shiba, who's considered a living treasure in Japan, but he said in the last years of life, he said most of these techniques and stuff I got from my wife. But the way the systems have been set up and the cultures have been set up, most of the information of how women have been dealt with, the women's contribution has been suppressed, especially with the patriarchal takeover. Now we're seeing a turn back now where women are more taking the forefront, because naturally if we look at things in their clarity, everyone that I know, I mean I've heard that there are people that's not the case, but I haven't met nobody like that. So everyone I know came from a mother. I heard about people coming down and, in a lotus flower and all that, but I haven't seen it. I reserve myself from that, but I'm clear on the fact that every human being I've seen comes from a mother. So if you come from a mother, then that's the source. So therefore that has to be the source of wisdom. In the spiritual systems, mother is like a coded word that represents wisdom. So the mother just has has innate wisdom. Male knowledge is academic, where you gotta go study and read all kinds of stuff and all these kind of things. Like one teacher told me, he said, women don't even have to study spirituality. He really upset me for about months. He said, what do you mean? I said, what do you mean women don't need no teaching? I gotta do all this stuff and they don't have to do nothing. He said, no. He said, they only do it to help you. They only do it because it makes you feel good. They already know. They already know all this stuff. This is men stuff. And that really bothered me for a long time until I finally came to, I was younger then, I came to an understanding what it was talking about. This has to do with Buddhism too. I know a lot of people don't like me talking about these kind of things, but today I'm talking about it. And again, people, we want to have a peaceful earth, and a lot of us have said we want to bring peace to the earth and stop all the wars and violence and all these kinds of things on a mass scale. But then we want to end that war that exists inside ourselves. First, once we can end that war that's going on inside ourselves, we can get rid of resentment, hatred, and anger within ourselves. That's the first war. The first universe is inside us. so we can end that. And we actually actually really contributing to the ending of suffering in the outer world. And with that, I'll finish. Thank you. Does anybody have anything they want to share? This might not have gone as long as I was supposed to talk, but this is as far as I can go. Okay, yes, ma'am.
What are the images of the people that you have?
These are images of black Buddhists. Some of these are from Tibet, some of them from Japan, and some of them are from India, different parts of Asia. I can't tell you exactly where all of them are from, but I wanted to get some images for the sake of this talk. I can tell you when I was in Japan, actually I didn't bring that picture. I have 2 pictures of black Buddhists that I saw when I was there, you know. But I've seen Buddhas of all colors. Just that they make usually it's a point they don't show black Buddhas. I've seen naturally white Buddhas and Asian Buddhas and what have you, but they never show Buddhas that are black. They might show the medicine Buddha, which is very dark blue, but they never show the images of black Buddhas. So in order to make the playing field even, we just want everybody to know that yes, there are Buddhas of all colors. And there have been Buddhas of all colors. Yeah, somebody else said that hand up.
Yes,
Yes,
could
ma'am.
you expand on the notion of harmonizing past and present? Past experience, bringing peace in your present moment, negative, positive.
Well, there's so many different ways to do this, but I can tell you what has worked for me is intense sitting and intense chanting or mantra work. And mantra work changes vibration. It changes the molecular structure in the body, and it goes into the subconscious along with certain breathing exercises where what happens is you begin to, these are the practices I do, we change the difference between the sleeping state or unconscious state and the conscious state to eventually, I'm conscious when I'm sleeping, what normally comes up as unconscious, I become very conscious of it, and my sleeping state is no different than my waking state. So that's how I've been able to, on one end, and then another end is being able to write some of these things down. And then secondly, to be able to express, to release. So that's to be able to find, well in my case, finding an individual or individuals that you trust enough, that's clear enough, that's non-judgmental to where you can express whatever it is you have to express to release it. Because releasing is very important. Now a lot of times, we're not able to release the past. Even if we identify it, we still have to get it out some kind of way. You know, so there again, the teachings of the Dharma and Buddhism of having a clear mind, when we have a clear mind, judgmentalism leaves. Like a good therapist is a person that's clear. A person come in and say anything they want to them, they listen to them, a person feels so at home and feels so trusting they can just let it all out. But if we don't clear that out in ourselves, then it's hard